guys, we're going to analyze Bill Gates, so stick around.
About your mom a lot in this book, and what a big influence your mom. I know everyone's mom is. I love my mom too. Yeah. What examples do you have of anything you remember your mom being very influential in you?
Well, when other families had come over, we'd talk about what their kids were up to, and then after they left, my mom would say, "Oh, they must feel terrible. Their kid didn't go to college, or they're not doing very well." And I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I get what you want me to do."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was a side way of saying you better go to college. Yeah. And then you went and dropped out.
I did.
There's another clip after this, so I'll go into more detail. But off of what he just said, then it reveals so much about, well, the amount of time he's spending with mom, through whatever cultivation she brought. While it sounds fairly inverted because she's the one who's driving his forward push to success, whereas that's supposed to be more of the father role. Though his father role is complicated, it sounds like he wasn't there enough. It was largely placed on the mother, and whenever a man tends to have such a utilitarian mom that she's doing pretty much both roles, it can pose as a significant imbalance. And the way that it shows today, example might be the fact that his mother has kind of a bit of, a twisted worldview on like the kids of the world, and like, oh, they're not going to be successful unless they go to college. Like, this lack of optimism, this lack of radiance, but he though still integrates her more than dad. Because I'm certain he's a manifestor. That's absolute at this point. It's unlikely he's a forger. He can probably have a lot of development in the forger lane, for sure. And you know what? I'm always open to being wrong. But it definitely seems like he's more so in the manifestor spectrum of things. And so I also believe from his generation, he has a bit of neurodivergence. So it doesn't necessarily show as extremely as it does today. So it's likely that's also a factor. And so with this, that worldview of his mother being placed on him can cause him to be more of a manifestor who's more altruistic in focus, where they're not more likely to like try to do things to like change the world in some way. But like if his father and her have some kind of view of the world and like what's wrong with it, he's going to feel like he's in the right on an ethical spectrum to do what he's doing, right? So like everyone understands that Bill Gates is controversial in the sense that he ends up trying to, I don't know, depopulate, right? Because he's a eugenicist. He may feel that he's in the right with this, especially with the way that he's going about it. Manifestors, big time like that. So anyway, we're going to stop this for now, and we're going to move on to the next clip.
My relationship with my two parents, is pretty different because my dad's working very hard, and a lot, he's just showing by example that he's got values. He's always on top of things. My mom was a little more frantic and, high energy, and my time, was overwhelmingly with her. And she, had high expectations. I was a little rebellious, from like 9 to 12. And, my school teachers, saw that I was capable, but kind of not very directed.
All right, so that's a really big one at the end. So not very directed. It means that there's not enough of, not every time, but a lot of the time it means that there's not enough of dad around to provide direction and a kind of concreteness. When mom comes in to try to do the same thing, it often involves a kind of chaotic force of like of a dispersal of like broadness, like just do whatever you want, sweetie, kind of a thing. But like, make sure you go to college. Because I, from a societal standpoint, believe that college is necessary because that's what all the rich people do, kind of a thing. And yeah, he did go to college, right? And then at some point he dropped out, and for good reasons, because he's successful, right? So we got to give that to him. He did well. But his very close relationship with his mother is what's probably cultivated the inner manifestor in him. And the way he describes his mother, I wouldn't say she's at all radiant and balanced. It sounds like she's slightly jaded toward the world and, maybe in some ways want to go out and be altruistic of very specific endeavors of what she believes in, but not in any way centered in the truth. Um, and so he would have likely ended up, in some ways, probably idolizing dad to some extent, but for the most part, the cultivation lies within his mother role. It sounds like he spent a lot of time with her, and it sounds like from the way he's talking that he has a bit of a yearning for what the father could have provided. It's likely in his deeper dreams and fantasies he even thinks of these things, that he doesn't tell the world at all. Um, and so I believe a lot of what drives Bill Gates to do what he does and the way that he does it is like a lot of manifestors who have a twisted worldview of like how to better the world. It's kind of like the Joker mentality from Batman, where Joker has a very twisted upbringing, um, but it's almost like he's trying to unconsciously attract the authority that he didn't get enough of. He wants to be caught. He wants to be finally subdued. He wants to be contained. These unconscious patterns are tied to needing all of what a father brings to the table. And a lot of people today go without it because they had a forger father who had too hard of an upbringing, who then decides to be too soft, or there's no father. They had a manifestor father, right? Maybe they had a forger who wanted to do all these things, but he had a starlet wife who was very tied into society, who was just like, no, that's abusive. You can't be doing these things, kind of a thing, right? So society's also weighed in heavily on these kinds of men. In the past, men were absolutely going way too far, objectively speaking. Like, I think the vast majority of men back in the day were forgers, and from that, they would have easily just made so many men and women resentful of masculinity because of how terrible they were with it. So there wasn't a big balance a lot of the time, though. I will say many men were. They had healthy relationships or connections to the feminine, which is their mother. That existed, absolutely. But a lot of women in the past were crushed. They were absolutely squashed, and they didn't get to the point where they could be radiant. It's actually really hard to ever see any woman who's radiant at all today because they don't know what that is. They focus on being utilitarian, like, oh, I'm gonna make a living in this way, or I gotta, or maybe be a stay-at-home mom and do these things. Those are both wrong. Um, and I think a lot of people are misunderstanding the role and like what should be happening and where women can be. And I do articulate this in my book, but really, his mother, like to go back to Bill, is like his mother could have, like, if she was hypothetically a radiant woman, it's very unlikely he would be doing what he's doing now. His mother's a big part of the reason why he is the way he is, and also his father. His father not maybe being around enough is another reason why he does things so dubiously and like behind the scenes and just deceitful, which is what a lot of manifestors do. I will say forgers can lie and be deceitful, but they're way more like upfront and honest about things a lot of the time versus manifestors who try to like hide things and be super sneaky about it or send out a ton of half truths. And yeah, absolutely. So anyway, that's a bit of Bill Gates in a nutshell. I hope you guys benefited. So, oh, and subscribe, follow.